So you are at the Study Away for EOP students community discussion. So that means all of the information in this presentation is really tailored, for EOP students and questions that you all might have. So I obviously want to start by first introducing myself. My name is Ashley Bayman. I use she, her, AF pronouns. I am a study abroad program coordinator and advisor here at UCSC. Just to give you a little bit of my background information, I identified as an EOP student during my undergrad. I was a female of color, a low income student who worked two jobs to get herself through college. I was a first generation college student. I relied on financial aid for both my study abroad and just my overall college experience. And I also was a transfer student. So I went to the community college, got my associate's degree, and then went to the university. I studied away once in community college during the summer in Mexico. And then when I got in the university, I studied abroad one summer in Brazil and then another semester in Argentina. So, study abroad in a way has truly been a life-changing experience for me because I'm literally in the position today as a study abroad, advisor to be able to speak with you all and share my experiences as well as the experiences of other students. So that's me. And now I'm gonna let Lucia introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucia Ortiz. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am an EOP academic counselor, but I graduated from UCSC with a double major in LALS and sociology, and I studied away in Brazil in the summer of 2019.
And then we'll also have another panelist joining us here in a little bit. Her name is Anai. She is a she, her pronouns. She is a current psychology major and education minor, and she studied away in England. So if you have any particular questions about Brazil and England, then feel free to ask us. So I want to start by first addressing the elephant in the room, which is COVID-19. I want to say, like, for me, sometimes it's weird to talk about studying abroad or away during a time in which some of us can't even leave our houses. So, it is a precarious time to talk about it. But as you'll see throughout the presentation, the most important part about studying abroad or away is planning ahead, sometimes a year or 2 years even. So really the point of today is just to plant the seed and to, make you all aware that it is an option for you if you choose to pursue it. Our office is very closely monitoring the global coronavirus situation, using, travel warnings and advisories from both the U.S. Department of State and the CDC. So there's that. Also, if programs are canceled for any reason, there have been like alternative virtual program options, which I'll go over later. So just know that I know that this is a weird time to talk about study abroad, but the point is just to plant the seed for later in your collegiate career if you choose to participate. So just so you have an idea of what we'll actually be talking about today, the first thing I'm going to go over is kind of debunking some of the myths about studying abroad in a way. I hear a lot of things like, I can't do it because of this, but I want to show that you could still do it even, in spite of that. I want to go over what the study away program options are. We actually do have a lot of different variety of programs, and I want to make you aware of what those are. Then I'll talk about how to use your financial aid to study abroad or away. Many of our students have their entire programs covered with financial aid. So, a lot of the times, students have the perception that it's expensive, which I'm not going to say that it's not, but there is a lot of financial support that you might receive. And then we'll end by going over some planning tips for studying abroad in a way, as well as allowing our panelists to share their stories and for you to ask them any questions or me any questions that you might have. So first, as I said, we're going to start by debunking the myths. So the first myth I often hear is that studying at UCSC is already too expensive. I can't afford to study away. which I didn't think I was able to either. And then I was able to do it 3 times. And there's multiple experiences where I've seen this played out. But the first thing I want to recognize is that, Santa Cruz is one of the most expensive places to live in the entire United States. So oftentimes, studying abroad or away can actually be a lot more affordable than just living in Santa Cruz when you think about food cost and housing cost, especially, and all the different things involved. Um, Secondly is that, you can take your financial aid with you. Your financial aid is available and it will meet your program cut costs. So when you study away on a UC program, your aid package adjusts. And I'll explain exactly what that looks like a little later on. And what else is that there are so many scholarships. I mean, so many. And oftentimes students don't take advantage of those, but it's really great to be aware of them. I wish I would have. I might still be paying for my study abroad or experiences. But Lucia will give you examples of scholarships that she applied to and got accepted for, 3. So you'll see that there definitely there's a way to attain those. Also, I want to just highlight some study away locations that are very low cost. You can see here we have Barbados, Brazil, China, Costa Rica, Hong Kong, Japan, Mexico, New Hampshire, New Mexico, and Thailand. So all of these programs cost a lot less than what it actually costs to be a student at UCSC and live within the community. So just to point some of those out, there are programs, in virtually every country in the world. But these are some of the more low cost locations. So the second myth I hear is that studying away will delay my time to graduate. Well, I want to say that's not true because research shows that students who are pursuing a 4-year degree actually have higher graduation rates than students who do not choose to study abroad. And that's become oftentimes you come back after studying abroad or away, like reinvigorated and really excited about, like, pursuing whatever fields of interest that you have, because you might have learned about, your field from a different cultural perspective, and you have a different mindset and different approach to it. Also, on any UC program, you get UC credit, so it will automatically go on your transcript. Many courses that you take abroad or away can be used to complete major, minor, and GE requirements. A lot of the programs that we offer are actually discipline specific. So they're tailored for a specific major or field of study. And sometimes there's even pre-articulated courses on programs. And then you are required to meet with your major and college advisors to participate in a UC program. So really it's kind of hard to delay your time to degree if you participate in a study away program, because there are, a lot of aspects of academic planning that you have to go through. I want to adjust a question in the chat if the recording will be available after the session, and it will, and I will send it to all of you who are here today. So the third myth is that studying away just isn't an option for me. We hear this all the time, and I want to show you that it's truly an option for everyone, despite, your major like STEM or your immigration status or finances, class standing, time degree, and other perceived barriers. One of our core values at UCSC Study Abroad is, to diversify the participants that we send abroad, to really ensure that equity and inclusion is kind of the foundation for how we build and advise for our programs. On our website, studyabroad.ucsc.edu, we have, under the Get Started section, a section that's called Identities Abroad and Away. These are the different student groups that it addresses. So there's information, resources, student experiences, if you identify with any of those groups. Also, we do have a broad range of students studying abroad or away at UCSC. So 12% are transfer students. The majority of students study abroad their senior year, but some juniors and very little sophomores. 80% of our students receive financial aid on their program. You can see how students identify, We actually have one of the more diverse group of students studying on these programs. As you can see, 41% white, 30% Latinx, 20% Asian, 5% ABC, 1% First Nations, and 1% international. And I also want to highlight that you don't have to study abroad to have an immersive intercultural learning experiences, which is why I keep saying a study abroad or away, because away is kind of more inclusive of the different domestic program options we offer. Also, I want to mention that most study away programs are non-competitive, meaning you're not competing with anyone. All you have to do is make sure that you're eligible for the program. And usually that eligibility is determined by your class level. So, there's requirements that you're a junior at time of participation. Your GPA ranges from a 2.0 to a 3.0, depending on the program. And then some programs, depending where they are, do have a language requirement. And you would see all of these eligibility criteria when you look at the program page. And so for the final myth, it's that, it's just not worth the hassle. Like I'm doing enough here at UCSC. I don't want to have to go through, the process, because it is a long process. Before I go to the next slide, someone asked if there are study abroad programs for engineering. Absolutely. There are some programs that are just tailored for engineering. And in fact, I can share, we did a study abroad for engineers info session, and I have a recording of that. So please contact me. I'll leave my contact information in the chat box if you want to get that recording. The email address to contact any study abroad advisor is studyabroad@ucsc.edu. So please follow up with me and I'll send you that engineering presentation. So when you say it's not worth the hassle, the facts here prove that it actually might be worth the hassle. Considering that not a lot of students actually participate in study abroad or away, only 3%, it really makes you stand out as you're, applying to grad school or looking for a job, just because the employer might recognize that you have, intercultural experience that other candidates might not. Study abroad or away participants have had increased hireability, higher starting salaries, higher acceptance rates into grad school, and many of them have had jobs secured more quickly after graduation. I will send out this presentation afterwards along with the recording so that you can kind of read a little bit more of what those statistics are. But they just show that, sure, it seems like a lot at first, going through the application process, the pre-departure process, completing all the requirements, but in the end, it actually can pay off for you. So you might be thinking, this all sounds good, but how can I actually study abroad or away? And I'm obviously happy that you asked, although you didn't ask, I just asked, but whatever. So we have 6 program options that we offer here at UCSC. The first is called our UCSC Global Seminars. So what those are they're programs that are designed by UCSC faculty that take place during summer session 1 or 2. So they're typically small cohorts of students, anywhere from 12 to 25 students on average. For these programs, you get UCSC credit. So they're already articulated in a specific major or department. And if you want, that credit, like if it's an anthropology course and you want it to meet your psych requirement, you would just have to petition that with your major advisor. We have scholarships available for our global seminars. For the past few years, we've been able to offer a $2,000 scholarship for the top 25 most financially needy students, and no application is even required. We just give financial aid the list of participants, and they pick the top 25 and give them $2,000. So that's a great opportunity. And obviously, financial aid is available in all UC programs. Here, you'll see some examples of the programs that we're going to offer. We actually don't have global seminars running in summer 2021 because of the uncertain situation with coronavirus. But these programs, these are just a few of the programs that we'll be offering in summer 22. I think right now we have like 15 programs, and you can see that on our website. If you go to studyabroad.ucsc.edu and go to programs, you can go to global seminars to see what the offerings are. I mentioned that these programs are canceled for summer 21. But other program types that I'll review are still running for summer 21. We just decided to make the decision early because of all of the uncertainty. So the next program type that we have are called exchanges. So basically what an exchange is you trade spots with a student at another institution. So these programs are offered either during fall, spring, or the entire academic year. Again, they're UC credit because it's our UCSC program. The cool thing about these programs is that you don't pay any extra. You really just pay UCSC tuition, and then you pay whatever living expenses that you have abroad or away. So, there's no like program fees or other out of pocket expenses. The programs are just open to juniors and seniors, whereas the global seminars were open to sophomore, juniors, and seniors. It's a UC program, so you get financial aid. And then we have different types of exchanges. So some of them are department based. Someone asked me about engineering earlier. We have engineering specific exchanges. You can see what the departments are. And then the other ones are campus wide exchanges, meaning that you can be in any major and participate in those programs. We also offer domestic exchanges. So it's the same concept, except those are institutions here in the US. So we have one at the University of New Hampshire and one at the University of New Mexico. And then underneath, you can see what some of their notable programs are. Moving on, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of UCDC, but it's called the UCDC Washington program. Our office just started advising for this program this year, and I'm the UCDC program coordinator on our campus. So what UCDC is, it's an internship-based program in Washington, D.C., and you do academic coursework alongside your internship. But the internship is really the main component of the program. This year, because of coronavirus, this program is being offered remotely. So students are remotely interning with DC-based organizations, like from Capitol Hill and different senators to nonprofit organizations to the Smithsonian. There's really like there's internship opportunities available in virtually any field. The really neat thing about UCDC is you get to engage with a lot of industry professionals, like a lot of people who are experts in their field, and they provide you with a lot of cool professional development opportunities, from speaker series to different events. So it's definitely a worthwhile program to look into. With this program, it's a UC program again, so you get to use your financial aid, and it's open to all majors. Some students think like, oh, UCDC, that's like politics major. Nope. We have students from all majors interning with all types of organizations. And obviously it is one of our domestic program options. So the next program that we have is University of California Education Abroad program, which we refer to as UCEAP, because you were trying to say University of California Education Abroad program over and over again, it'd be a lot. So with UCEAP, actually Lucia and Anai participated in UCEAP, so they can talk about the experience in the program in a bit. But it offers programs during any time of the year. So summer, fall, winter, spring, all year. So there's a lot of different opportunities for you to pursue. They offer, courses and programs and almost any discipline you can think of. There's some language and culture programs that really focus on, allowing you to learn the language and the culture of the place that you're at. There are immersion programs where you can take classes with local students. They have internship programs, field research programs, as well as what they call UC study centers. And basically what that is, it's a UC owned facility where you're taking classes with only other UC students. Obviously, because it's a UC program, you get UC credit and you get to take your financial aid with you. And then for our last two program types, you could study abroad with another UC campus. Almost all of the UCs have their own global seminar programs where you take a course abroad with their UC faculty. Again, it's UC credit. You get to take your financial aid with you. And you get to go abroad. Typically, these are offered during the summer, so similar to our global seminars that are offered during summer session 1 or 2. UC Davis offers a quarter program, but you'd have to do like a leave of absence or an intercampus transfer, so we don't usually like highlight those programs. And really the only difference between other UC summer programs and UCSC global seminars is that, you're probably with the majority of students from that specific UC and with faculty from that UC. So the last program type that I want to share with you all is called non-UC programs or independent programs. So these programs are not affiliated with the UC. They are their own organizations. They might have like partnerships or affiliations with us, but we don't advise for those programs because we don't own them or manage them. With those programs, because they're not UC programs, you get transfer credit rather than UC credit, but you could still apply that transfer credit to meet requirements. You just have to do like a review of transfer credit when you get back. Unfortunately, with these programs, no financial aid is offered. The difference being is many times the programs are more affordable than UC programs, because with UC programs, you're paying UC tuition, whereas with independent programs, you're not paying, the campus tuition. And they do offer tons of different scholarships, and they offer opportunities to study abroad at any time of the year. A few programs that are popular when it comes to the independent programs are one that's called Semester at Sea, where you're on like a cruise ship for, I don't know, a whole semester going to like 14 different countries. It tends to be popular amongst our students. And then there's one that's called Wildland Studies. It's based here in Santa Cruz, and it's basically just like field research. So you're camping and hiking and working outdoors a lot. And again, all of these programs can be found on our Study Abroad website under programs. I wanted to take a quick moment to just highlight other domestic opportunities, because as I mentioned at the beginning, studying abroad or away does not have to be international. So some of the domestic programs I mentioned are hosted by our office, which are the Exchanges and UCDC, but there's also UC Center Sacramento that the Career Center hosts, the California Ecology and Conservation, which is actually an extension of UC EAP. And then other UCs offer a variety of domestic programs, as you can see right here in various locations around the US. I also want to highlight virtual programs, just because, again, COVID-19. So we're trying to be a little bit more innovative in our approach of program offerings. So all of the programs that you see here are virtual programs that you could participate in which you receive UC credit and financial aid would go with you. So I keep talking about financial aid, so why don't I broach that subject a little better? So in terms of using your financial aid, again, it's only available on UC programs. And one thing that our campus does that other UC campuses do not, is that our financial aid offers you a financial aid estimate for a program that you're participating in. So on our Study Abroad website, if you go to Get Started and Affording Study Abroad, there's a section that says request a financial aid estimate. And basically all you do is fill out a form. You say your program name, you say the cost of the program, because the cost is available on every program's page, and you send that to financial aid, and then they'll send you an estimate of how much aid you can expect to receive to participate in that program. Financial aid is usually adjusted to meet the program cost. So what this means is that, let's say that you have 90% of your expenses covered here at UCSC, then 90% of your expenses would be covered on your study abroad or away program. Even if the program is more expensive than what it costs to attend UCSC, you would get more aid because, again, it's adjusting. Similarly, if the program costs less than what it does to attend UCSC, then you'll get less aid because it's adjusting to the cost of the program. I also want to mention something about summer aid, because I've talked about summer programs like the global seminars. It is available, but sometimes it's more limited just because of their packaging model. So usually if you're taking 10 units or more, you would qualify for the university grant, which is $2,000. And then there might be other aid opportunities available. A lot of times during the summer, you are able to utilize whatever aid you did not use during the academic year. So let's say there's a loan that you didn't take that you were offered. You could take that loan during summertime. But again, there are also a variety of different scholarships. So there's different options to fund a summer experience, and Lucia could talk about that a little better because she participated in a summer Brazil program. And I keep mentioning scholarships. So just to give you an idea of what those are, um, the ones that I want to highlight here are the Gilman Scholarship. That is available for Pell Grant recipients. So you could, ask, if you don't know if you're a Pell Grant recipient, just ask your financial aid advisor. Typically anywhere from 25 to 35% of our students are awarded the Gilman, and it's a significant amount. The top amount is $5,000. You could get offered lower than that. And then if you're studying what they call a critical need language, so a language that not a lot of people speak in the US, like Japanese or Portuguese or Chinese or Mandarin, what have you, they may offer you $3,000 additional because they really want people to learn those languages. Secondly, UCEAP offers their own scholarships. One is called a Promise Award, and 1 in 3 students are awarded it. It's only like a 500-word essay that you have to write, and that could get you up to $2,000. They award $1,000 during the summer and then $2,000 during the academic year. There's also a scholarship called the Fund for Education Abroad, and the mission of that scholarship is to send students from diverse and underserved backgrounds on study abroad and away programs. So they offer up to $10,000. And outside of that, there are so many scholarships available. All you would have to do is speak with a study abroad advisor, and we'll kind of point you in the right direction. So finally, looking at some next steps, you're like, okay, this all sounds good, but like, how do I actually get started? So the first thing, as I mentioned, it's really important to plan studying abroad or away early. Many of the deadlines are, due 4 to even 8 months in advance of the start of the program. So typically, like if you wanted to study abroad your senior year, you would have to start your junior year because that's when the application opens and that's when the deadlines are. In order to plan early, you would have to explore your program options. So I keep saying this, but if you visit our website and just go to programs, you'll be able to read a lot more in depth about the programs that I've mentioned in today's presentation. And we also have this cool Program Explorer tool in our database system. I'll talk about what Slugs Abroad is here in a minute. But after you complete a profile, you can go to the Program Explorer and really answer a bunch of questions to kind of tailor a program for you and whatever your interests are. So the very first thing you would need to do if you are even thinking about studying abroad or away is create a study abroad profile. All you do is go down here to ucsc.edu/slugsabroad, and it will take you to this interface. Once you're here, you sign in with your cruise ID. So you don't have to create a new ID or anything like that. And then once you sign in, you'll be prompted to complete profile. And basically what the profile is, it just gives you kind of preliminary information about study abroad or away. So it'll explain the program types. It'll give you identity specific information. So there will be prompts like, do you identify as an EOP student? Yes. And then a whole blurb about, things and resources that you should consider are included there. So it's a really great tool just to kind of get you started on your journey. You can create a profile and never apply, but it at least gives you some of that important preliminary information. Secondly, with the coronavirus, passport applications have been delayed. So if you're thinking like, oh, I really want to study abroad next year, then I would strongly encourage you to apply for a passport now. Just because we don't know what the processing looks like this year. I want to mention that if you wanted to do a domestic program, there is no passport that's required. But unfortunately, come October 2021, your ID will have to be a real ID in order to fly domestically. Another thing that I want to talk about here is talking to your family about study abroad and away. Obviously, like our loved ones, and I shouldn't even just say family, but our loved ones, our community, they're a big part in our decision-making process sometimes. And so I just want to give a few tips and tricks about maybe broaching the conversation with your family if you think that they might not be open to the ideal. So really the most important thing to start is just by doing your research on the program. Like when you tell your loved ones anything and you don't have your ducks aligned, they're like, are you really serious about this? Because it doesn't look like you've done that much research on it. So that's why it's important to, research programs that match your personal, academic, and professional goals. Give them as much information as possible so that they know that you're making an informed decision. Um, when approaching the topic with your loved ones, like I always, back in the day, like I would gauge my family's mood. Like, oh, my dad's had a couple beers. Maybe right now I'll like ask him if I can go to the movies or whatever. So like really seeing what mood that they're in before kind of bring up what might be a heavy topic. And here's like some, ideas, just maybe asking them about their own travel experience. Or just thinking like carefully about what they would want to know. It's also important to just be like flexible when talking about them. You don't want to get in an argument with them about it. You want to be able to like acknowledge their concerns. And you might even need to be flexible, like, about the destination that you want to go to or the amount of time that you spend away. It's also important to show financial responsibility, show them that you've gotten that financial aid estimate. We have pre-filled budgets on our website that you can just fill out and be like, look, I made a budget. So just showing them that like you're strongly considering the financial implications, and you're already doing things to kind of help alleviate what those might be. Obviously, your loved ones are always going to want your safety to come first. And there's a lot of information on our website. Under Get Started, there's this whole section on health and safety. So, just to kind of ease their fears of the unknown. And then, it'll be important if you do decide to study abroad or away to create a communication plan with them. Depending on where you're going to be, there's going to be different time zones and changes. So, just like, okay, we can communicate via this platform, whether it's Zoom or WhatsApp or Skype, if that's even a thing still. And, just deciding what the best times of day for you guys to communicate will be. Again, as much information as you can provide, maybe the better the conversation will go. Finally, we really always want you to engage with us. So please connect with an advisor if you're interested in learning more about anything. That's our email address. That's our phone number. We're available via phone now as well. But after you make that study abroad profile that I talked about a few slides ago, there will be a section at the top that says virtual advising appointments. And there you can schedule to meet with an advisor anytime between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. We also have drop-in advising hours too. So really various methods to be able to work and engage with us. Also, we post a lot of things about events and scholarships and resources on our social media pages. I don't know if people use Facebook a lot anymore. We do post stuff there, but only because it's connected to our Instagram account. So if you go to our Instagram, which is just UCSC Study Abroad, you'll be able to follow us that way. So now I feel like I've talked a ton. So I want to allow our panelists to answer questions and share their perspectives, because I think theirs are kind of the most invaluable source of information that you might receive. So I have a couple questions for them, and then I want to open it up for you guys to all answer questions. Again, we have Lucia and Anai here. And for the first question is for Lucia. We want to know, how did you pay for your study away program? Did your financial aid go with you? And really, just what was your overall program experience like, Lucia?
Yeah, so hello everyone again. And yeah, so for me, when I was a student, I definitely relied heavily on financial aid for all of my costs at UCSC. So the financial aspect of studying abroad was definitely something that I thought about a lot. And so, as Ashley mentioned, like you can talk to the financial aid advisors to provide you kind of like an estimate of what your package would look like. So that's something that I did, which was really helpful because I believe I might have done that like maybe like winter, early spring. And so that was really helpful for me just to kind of know ahead of time like what my package was going to look like if I had to take out any loans. And because I was working, also like an opportunity to kind of like budget myself and like save up for my program, because I didn't want to take out a ton of loans or like pay a ton of money out of pocket and be stressing about it last minute. So I definitely planned ahead and tried to save up as much money as I could. Um, and so I did get financial aid. I'm not sure off the top of my head exactly like what my financial aid package looked like, but it did cover like a good amount. And then during the winter and the spring, while I was applying, I was also applying to scholarships. So some of the scholarships, I had to do like a lot of research on my own, but also like connecting with the study abroad advisors is really helpful because they're very knowledgeable about what resources are out there and available to you, especially depending on like what program you're going into, like what country you're going into, if like as Ashley mentioned, like any specifics that are specific to like what the scholarship is for. And so I applied to 4 scholarships, and I got 3. So the first one was the Gilman Scholarship that Ashley mentioned. And because I did study abroad in the summer, which was a short period, it was a 5-week program. My aid was a lot smaller because my cost was a lot less compared to like a full semester abroad or like a full year. So my Gilman scholarship was $2,000. And then I also applied to the Foreign Language Abroad Fund, because I was learning Portuguese while I was abroad. And so that one was for, I believe it was around $700. And then the third scholarship that I applied to was the Promise Award, and that one was $1,000. So at first it was really stressful thinking about it, like, I have to do all this work for these scholarships, but at the end of the day, like, it's free money, so it's definitely worth it. But to be honest, like, the scholarships are not that much work. There was like some writing components to it. But in addition to that, I was also able to get support from the study abroad advisors. They had like a workshop for the Gilman scholarship where they were able to like review like my writing prompts, and like give me feedback on like how to make it better. And that was really helpful because I ended up getting the scholarship. So I was really appreciative of that. And yeah, that was definitely a really good, like, it was a really good help for me, just because like while I was abroad I was able to like explore more of the city and like, try like new things that, obviously like cost money, but also like as Ashley mentioned, like it is like an affordable program, so like the currency is different. So, what I would have spent here in Santa Cruz like does not compare to what I spent in Brazil. Everything was a lot cheaper. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah, I think after we hear from Anai, we will maybe just ask a little bit more about the experience itself. But thank you so
Okay.
much, Lucia. I always value listening to your experience. So next we have Anai. Hi, Anai. It's nice to see you. And the question that I wanted to pose to you is, what do you find to be the most valuable parts of your study away experience?
Hello. So I just want to start off by like kind of putting up a disclaimer. While I was studying abroad, the pandemic became a lot worse. So I actually was studying abroad. I started January and I was supposed to go up to May, but that didn't end up happening because of the pandemic and just everything like shutting down. So I came home early. But the few months that I was there, I just found myself completely immersed into the culture, both like just being able to take the classes. I took classes with a lot of well, I ended up going to London. Let me state that first. But I took a lot of classes with British students. There are a couple of classes that were like basically all study abroad students, and I was lucky enough to be able to interact with like actual British students, and kind of talk to them and be able to get to know them as well as like get to know the city. So I was pretty close to like the center of London, as well as just taking every single opportunity. Like they hosted a lot of events at the school I was at, Queen Mary, and I try to go to everything. I try to really hang out with the people, really get to know them. I try to travel too within like the little areas of London, as much as I could, because it was just a lot of new places to discover, and being able to share that with people through the UCAP program. I met at least 2 people from UCSC who were also studying abroad, and a couple other people from different UCs, and we were all having similar experiences. So being able to share those experiences with them but also getting to meet new people was really amazing. It was just kind of a whirlwind for those couple of months I was there. And I really learned a lot from just like being able to meet new people, especially a whole different culture. They're very reserved, as opposed to like the American way, being very outspoken and loud. So it was just very interesting, and I think that's what I value the most: being able to meet diverse people, as well as just having a lot of experiences within a short span of time.
Yeah, and I know, you had so many unique experiences from enrolling in courses at your host institution, which I remember how difficult that was at first, as well as having to, leave because of COVID. And I know that was a whirlwind situation and not easy at all. At the beginning, I was talking a little bit about how COVID is the elephant in the room, like talking about studying abroad or away is kind of weird when people can't even leave their homes or go out to eat, within the US. So can you tell us like how that transpired? Like, okay, hey, there's this thing, COVID-19, to, oh my gosh, you need to evacuate and come home and enroll in courses. And I know that was like a crazy time. So if you feel comfortable, would you share anything about that experience?
Sure thing. Sorry, I had to move for a second.
Okay.
For COVID, I remember we were closely monitoring the situation simply because through UCAP, they connected with people who are actually within the country. So we were connected to people in England who would be able to help us in case anything happened. Not because they knew COVID was happening, but because they want to make sure that you are as safe and comfortable as possible in a foreign country, especially if you're not too familiar with like the policies as well as like general laws and things like that, that things that might fly here in the US might not fly in the UK. So they were very adamant about making sure we knew that. So because of that, with the process of finding out about COVID and all the cases, we really heard a lot, and they tried to reach out to us, especially in the early stages when they were getting the information. They would pass it along to us. At the end, it was a little bit harder because everyone was really scrambling to figure out whether or not our program would be suspended, if it would be canceled. I know a couple of the programs of the students who were there actually got canceled, rather than just being asked to do it remotely, which is what we did for UCAP. And I know some of them got 2 3 weeks ahead. They gave them time to really get out of the country before anything really happened. UCAP was still kind of gauging the situation. I ended up having about, I want to say, a day or two notice to actually have to leave the UK. So I packed really quickly, and it was very, very strange times. This is very random, but I remember being on TikTok like a couple of nights before I got noticed, and they were. I saw a TikTok of someone joking that they had to like leave France really quickly because I think France had shut down before the UK. I know a lot of places shut down before the UK, and I was laughing about how that might be me. And then the next day or the 2 days after that, I got an email saying, you don't have to leave. It's not like anything too dangerous or anything like that. It's not a dangerous situation, but we would encourage you to leave because, it's easier for you to manage something like this in your home country where you have like easier access to like healthcare via school if that is what you have. So it was really interesting. They try to be as helpful as possible, despite it being a very serious and very fast-paced situation. And I was really thankful for that because I was one of the last people who were able to change their flight home, and I left. And when I got back here, they were in touch with us, making sure we were okay and reaching out to us. And the remote process was a lot easier for us because we were at the end of our actual course um, content. So we were about to take our finals.
Thank you so much for sharing. I know that was a really difficult situation and a new situation for all of us, even in our office. We're like, okay, what's the process for, checking up on the students and everything that needed to be done during that time. So we just hope to be able to do more preventative measures here on out, especially since the COVID-19 has become such a part of all of our lives. Another thing I wanted to ask both of you is what advice would you offer fellow UCSC students, especially fellow EOP students looking to study abroad or away? Is there any specific, guidance or counsel or advice you would give them?
I think Lucia touched on this when discussing like financial aid, and it's something that I heard throughout the entire experience. Not only planning ahead with looking into it way ahead of when you do want to actually study abroad and doing all that, but it's very important to try to budget as much as possible in the sense of you might be in love with the place, but make sure to research like the currency. I know for me, like London was so much more expensive than here. Like I think it was like £10, wasn't even like $10 here. So I was paying a lot, and it was something that I was aware of going in, which kind of helped me not spend as much because I was kind of planning on how to like budget like food wise and things like that. But it is something that I know can take people for like as a surprise. So really looking into that, but also I know that something that kind of happens to a lot of people is that they go to a new country or a new place and they try to go to all these attractions, but don't forget that there's also like deals there. Like for some reason, people are like, no, I want to do it right now, and they ended up paying much more. I actually had the opportunity to go to Spain while I was out studying abroad, and one of the reasons I was able to do that was because me and my group actually searched for cheaper flights. We're looking for like what flights were cheaper. We found the Spain flights, and then searched for a good Airbnb that was pretty cheap, and we did that, and we were able to spend more money on food and like walking around and doing stuff. But if we had tried to do it like as soon as possible rather than waiting further into our study abroad time there, it would have been way more expensive.
Where'd you guys go in Spain?
We went to Barcelona.
Beautiful. Lucia?
I guess there's a lot, but I guess just in short, like do it if you can. Hopefully like if COVID restrictions and things get better and you're still a student at UCSC, like I definitely recommend doing it just because like you just get like so much out of it. Whether like you're going for your major or you're going like to learn a language or you're just going because you want to travel abroad. I definitely encourage it. I think I definitely learned a lot going abroad. As Anai mentioned, like I met another UCSC student, which I wouldn't have met otherwise had I not studied abroad. And I also was able to like make friends with students from other UCs and even like students that were also studying in Brazil from other countries. So that was just like a really like unique experience. And just yeah, it was like a really insightful experience. Like I I experienced a lot of privilege while I was abroad, and so it was a very eye-opening experience. Just I don't know, just putting things into perspective, especially because I hadn't really like traveled outside of the country, aside from visiting family. Like this was something like that was very new to me, and something that I did by myself, which was really scary at first. But I'm really glad that I did it. But yeah, I think like if you plan ahead, like it's definitely something doable. And I mean, when else are you gonna be able to travel to another country and have some of your expenses paid for? Um, but yeah, I would definitely like recommend like planning ahead, which is good that you all are here just to like learn like what the process is like in terms of like your financial aid and like planning ahead of time and like also like just doing like research too. I know when I had met with Ashley about wanting to study abroad, like it was something that I was thinking about like since I came to UCSC. Like I don't know where I'm gonna go, but while I'm at UCSC, like I want to study abroad. And I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and then eventually I met with Ashley, and I remember even like talking to her. I was like, I want to do this, but I'm not really sure where to go. And I remember she was like talking with me about like the options, like um kind of like the pros and cons of like programs. Like I mentioned, whether you're going for your major, or you're going like for other reasons, like there's definitely different things to take into consideration. So I think looking into like every aspect is really important, because you definitely want to make the most out of your trip. And even doing like, even once you decide where to go, like even doing research beforehand, like as Anna mentioned, like she went to like another country, so maybe that's something that you can also take advantage of, and like meeting other people and like gaining new experiences, like immersing yourself in another culture. But yeah, I definitely gained a lot. So yeah, I would just say overall, if you can do it and you want to do it, you definitely should.
Even despite a pandemic. I mean, once we got the situation under control. So now I definitely want to open it up to our attendees today. Any questions that you have for Anaí, Lucia, me? We're here to, I don't know, address any questions or concerns that you guys may have. So please don't hesitate to ask us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So we have one question. What was your living situation like? Are there dorms? How does that work? And I think both of you would be good to answer this question.
Yeah, so I was not living at the school. I'm not sure if the school that I went to had like on-campus housing. But I was in a summer program, so I was hosted by a person who like lives in the city of Rio. So I guess they could have like partnerships or like families in the city that like offer to like house students. So I mean, I had to pay for it obviously, but I was living with a woman who was housing me. And she was really nice. She was really friendly. It was definitely a bit challenging because I was just learning Portuguese, and I only know English and Spanish. So to an extent, we were able to like communicate. But she was like a really nice host. And I remember there was also another student that was also studying at the same university as I was, but she was in a different program, and she was from New York. So she sometimes would house more than one student at a time. So I was living like in the city, and it wasn't too difficult getting around from where I lived. It was like one bus ride to the school. But it was definitely like there was like everything was around me. Like if I wanted to go get food, like go buy food, like I was really close by. If I wanted to go to the beach, it was like 2 blocks away. So everything was definitely accessible from where I was. And even to get to the university, like it wasn't difficult. And there was also like Ubers accessible as well. And I don't remember the cost of how much it was where I lived, but it was significantly cheaper. And I was in a single, so I had my own room.
Hannah?
For me, I actually did live on campus, well, on one of the campuses for Queen Mary, and I believe that most of London schools or London universities are single. Usually, you don't really have to share a room with anyone, so that was pretty common. None of my friends had to share rooms with anyone. It was more of a if any of you are familiar with like the apartments on the different colleges, it was more like that. You had your room, and then you had like a shared common area, which was the dining room as well as the kitchen. And that was very interesting. It was kind of a little bit of a different out was a layout than a lot of the colleges here, but I really liked it. It allowed us to interact more as flatmates because we did all kind of have to use the same kitchen. I know that some of the dorms or flats there had like their own bathroom. I ended up choosing one that was a room that was slightly cheaper, and that meant that I didn't have my own bathroom, but I didn't mind. And I don't think it was that expensive. It was I mean, for like London schools, it wasn't that expensive. And like I mentioned, I got one of the cheaper rooms, even then, like it wasn't bad at all. And I really liked it. And it was kind of hard to get the actual spot simply because you kind of had to apply really quickly as they are pretty hot commodity over there to try to be on campus. Though there are a lot of people who commute from around London. So that was the hardest part, but otherwise, I found the experience pretty easy, similar to the housing here. And like I mentioned, it's always nice to have a single and not have to share a room with someone else.
Which is uncommon on the UCSC campus. Another question that we have, what do you do if you like break your arm? Do you have to have UC insurance? So I guess I'll start with that one. So all students have travel insurance while they're in a UC program. The policies look different per program type. For example, with global seminars and exchanges, not only do you have UC insurance, but we enroll you in something called Geo Blue, which is a very comprehensive international insurance plan so that it can cover the cost in case anything happens, from evacuations to medical things. The UCEAP insurance, I think it's called, like, I forget what Chubbs. It's such a weird name. It's called like Chubbs. It I don't know if it's as comprehensive as it should be. But definitely, if you have to go to the hospital for any reason, you fill out an insurance claim. And so you initially pay for it out of pocket, but then you fill out an insurance claim and you can be reimbursed for that. Did you guys have any experience using your travel insurance while you were on your program?
I didn't personally, but I had a friend who was there the entire year, friend from another state, so they weren't through UCAP. And I believe they didn't have to have insurance through their program, but I did go to England, and like England insurance and just like the healthcare system is really different from the US healthcare system. So their copays are not as expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't seem to have any issue dealing with that.
Yeah, many countries outside of the US have something called universal health care, which makes it a lot more accessible to get treatment, because healthcare is a human right. But yeah, you are typically provided with a comprehensive health insurance plan. Any other questions from our attendees? Feel free to speak up or put them in the chat box. If not, of course, oh, we have another one. Did you have to pack like bed sheets and stuff? Like, what were the type of things that you needed to bring? I can say bed sheets. No, you don't have to bring those. But what were some of the things that you brought, Lucia?
Yeah, so in my room where I was being housed, it was like a fully furnished room. Like there was a bed, there was like a desk, there was like closets. It was more of like personal like toiletries and like just like clothes. But again, as I mentioned, like everything was like really accessible. Like there was a pharmacy on that same like block where I lived. So if I had to go get like shampoo or like toothpaste or like sunscreen, like everything was pretty like accessible. Um, but aside from like that, it wasn't too much that I had to take. I'm definitely an overpacker, so I probably packed more than I needed to. But like aside from like clothing, like whatever I needed that I forgot or like I ran out of was really accessible for me to find and cheaper to buy.
Mm-hmm. Anai?
Sorry, I had to turn off my camera because my Wi-Fi was acting up. But I don't. No, I don't think I packed anything of like bed sheets or any like cookware. I was gonna be there for a long time, so I just bought everything there. I know my university abroad had a package where it came with bed sheets, cookware, like utensils, as well as like any plates or anything like that that you needed. And then I bought little things at like the equivalent to their dollar store there. So it was pretty easy to get.
Thank you. Any more questions? If questions do come up, of course, you can always email me, and I may be able to reach out to our two panelists to see if they can provide any other insight. Again, I put my email back into the chat box. So one, we're just really grateful that you guys, made the time to speak with us and engage with us today. And just know that we're here to support you and whatever your pursuits might be. So never hesitate to reach out to me and or our panelist through me. But it's Wednesday at 6 if you're in the Pacific time zone. So definitely get some rest. 2 days left, and then we got a little bit of holiday break to look forward to next week. So yeah, thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you found this information useful.